Welcome to Beyond the Pulpit with Bishop Kevin, the show that is spiritual but not churchy. Each week, Bishop talks to different guests about real-life situations. If you want to support the Beyond the Pulpit podcast, head over to www.kevinwillisministries.org/podcast for more information. Now let's get into our episode.
Hey, this is Bishop. I am so excited about another podcast, Beyond the Pulpit. This has been an amazing year. We've had some incredible people in studio with us. I don't know if we've had a person of this caliber in studio with us that I am so excited about having. Deeply respected. I think very highly of her. She doesn't know that, but I do. I watched her movement in the community, prayed for her. Our church has prayed for her, and just excited to have the opportunity to sit with her and talk one-on-one and just share some things with her and allow her to share with all of us, because this audience is larger than the city of Memphis. Not only what her job is, but how we can support her as she is called to be the angel in the city in terms of leading the Memphis Police Department. This is none other than Chief Davis. We really salute her and glad that she is with us. You know, my handle, we're spiritual, not churchy, so we're not coming from a church angle. This is a city thing. So, Chief, we're so honored to have you, and it means so much that you are sitting in the Beyond the Pulpit studio.
Awesome. Thank you for the invitation. It's good to be here, Bishop.
I am thankful to have you here. We've been looking forward to talking to you. And I want to say to you that with all the work you've done, and certainly with all the interviews you've done, let me be sure that I communicate really early that this is a safe place for you. And I say that because I have the utmost of respect for you. I appreciate your responsibility and how you take that on every single day.
Thank you.
I think you're a phenomenal leader, and we want to know, and that's a question, what we can do to help you. And we want you to be comfortable. So
yeah. Well, there's a lot in that question itself. I think this is a start, having conversations, and especially from the police department standpoint. All too often, I do interviews and I have conversations.
Certainly.
And the true message of what I have to say never hits the community.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think that we are a community that enjoys sensationalism.
Okay, we are.
We enjoy the exciting story.
Certainly.
And sometimes not the factual one.
Certainly.
And sometimes that messaging carries a narrative that keeps us from getting to the real root of problems and keeps us caught up in the drama of things sometimes.
Wow.
But I appreciate having a conversation about what some of the real problems are in our city.
Wow.
And what we need to do to help overcome some of those issues. And as we were, having the casual chat before this conversation, it can't be the police department, because we are a public safety entity that is 95% responsive. We are a department that from 24 hours a day responding.
Certainly.
Responding. We don't have near as much time as we'd like to have to be more proactive and give our community, a different type of attention.
Certainly.
But right now we're more inundated with various, types of calls for service that keep our officers busy. But the question of what can we do, I think first we all have to just sort of be introspective about, what can I do?
Certainly.
Personally. Because even outside of this uniform, you tell people all the time, this is what I do. It's not who I am. I am a community member.
Yes, you are.
I am a person that is subjected to the same type of criminal activity as my neighbors are.
And people don't believe that.
Oh, I know.
No, they don't.
I got references. I can tell them about sometimes.
They don't believe that. So I've had some firsthand experiences.
Yeah, I think we all have.
And that's tragic.
Right.
You can relate.
I can absolutely relate. And not just here. Police officers around the country are community members. They
Certainly.
have children.
Certainly.
They live in somebody's, jurisdiction where they deal with crime problems just like everybody else.
But the unfortunate thing is you're seen as a separate entity.
I know.
And that's the tragic
We're the
part of it.
fixer.
Well, sometimes you're seen as the fixer, but I think in some communities you're not even given that benefit of the doubt. Like you're not the fixer. You're just a nuisance, and that's sad.
Yeah.
Because I'm a kid who grew up loving the police.
Right.
And appreciative. And let me just tell you, I grew up in LA. I'm one of those Watts kids. I understand really what it means to be in a community that is gang infested.
Yeah.
I grew up between two communities that were at war. That was before Bloods, but not before Crips.
Crips, right.
And unfortunately had family members who were Crips and very proud of it. And in that community at that time, it was Pyru and some other gangs. And my experience was you had every opportunity to join a gang. And my family were Crips. And they did not, in fact, refused to allow me to join that gang. And it saved my life. So you were seen in that community as a nuisance. But here's the comical part about that. There was still a level of respect.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that's the difficulty. So we want to help you. We want to support you. I appreciate the fact that you're saying practically that we have to take some responsibility ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because nobody else is saying that.
That's right. And I don't think people want to say that because...
Why would you not want to say that?
I don't know. This is a community of 650,000. And when you think of a community of 650,000 and a good portion of our community is young people, a police department of 2,000 officers, and not quite 2,000 officers, we can't put a dent.
That's a lot.
In the issues, right? We can't put a dent in the issues, especially when you talk about social problems.
Certainly.
That impact our community. We have communities, like I said before, that are impoverished. We have young people that are raising themselves. We see children. And just recently, when I talk about, just messaging, I spent the last 3 days trying to reel in messaging about how we as a police department want to take care of our young people.
Oh, wow.
But that message was sort of spun that the Memphis Police Department is targeting juveniles. All you have to do is go down to Beale Street at 1:00 in the morning and see how many 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. Is something wrong with that?
Amazing.
And we should accept that narrative to say we need to do something about having children by themselves in an entertainment district. And we wonder why our children become victims.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we made the decision. We're going to definitely partner with you.
We appreciate it. Yeah.
And we have several policemen in our congregation, and we love them. We pray for them. Yeah. We are talking to them to encourage them. And we're definitely, if we're going to support them, that means definitely we are supporting you.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah. We really do.
Listen, one of the staff members gave me this question, and it's for me, and I think they were looking out for me. And we were joking with team before you got here. I am an avid rider. Motorcycle rider. Yes, ma'am. I have a beautiful black Harley that is about 1,100 pounds.
How fast do you go?
Within the speed limit. Now, do you really think I'm going to tell you? I know who
and plead guilty in front of the chief.
I've got good sense. I whatever the speed limit is, I stay within those boundaries. But how do we deal with what's happening in the city in terms of the racing and the speed? I have come to this conclusion that there's certain areas that I don't feel comfortable riding in any longer.
Yeah. And
so I've kind of curtailed my riding in some of those places, some of those areas, because I've seen some things that frighten me. And as I know, when you're riding, there's an element of fear that you have because that's normal, certainly.
Yeah.
But if you get to the point where you become afraid, that's an issue.
Yeah.
How do we deal with what we're seeing in terms of the racing?
Right. Well, so a lot of people who get out there on the street, they feel comfortable because they say they're a safe driver. I consider myself a safe driver.
Okay.
Today, it's not enough to be a safe driver. You have to be offensive and a defensive driver.
Certainly.
In the city of Memphis. Because, and not just here, we're starting to see in other cities how our streets have become so very dangerous to be out on, especially
Certainly.
when you're on motorcycles, because, just on a normal day, sometimes a motorcycle can be in a blind spot.
Oh, certainly.
But,
Certainly.
there are times when our commuters are driving so erratically and so recklessly, if you get clipped,
Oh my.
and it's you against the elements.
Oh my. How
As
well
a
do I know?
motorcyclist, yeah.
How well do I know?
It's a very scary thing because it's funny. My husband and I we went and visited my mother some weeks ago, just for a weekend in Atlanta, and on the streets. Of course, Atlanta has crazy traffic, but on the city
Crazy
street, most of the people were driving the speed limit.
Really?
They were on streets. On the freeways, everybody drive fast.
Oh yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
on the streets, most of the people were driving, the speed limit. And it felt strange
Oh, my.
to be in the midst of
People driving
on the
speed
regular
limit.
streets. In Memphis, I've observed our streets are dangerous. You notice how many pedestrian accidents from people just walking.
No, ma'am. I had no earthly idea.
Oh, yes. We've had several serious pedestrian accidents and fatalities
Oh my.
of people just walking because our motorists are driving so fast on our city
You
streets.
can't stop.
You can't stop fast enough, and sometimes
Oh,
it's
my.
dark. So, as a motorcycle rider, I suggest that you be careful where you ride.
And I do that.
And the times of day and the days of week that you decide to ride.
At this wonderful age, I've made some decisions. One, now I do like being on the expressway.
Mm-hmm.
It is the benefit of everybody going in the same direction.
Yeah.
And of course, you can see people from behind you, and of course, you see the lanes on either side, and so that works. Sometimes when you come to an intersection, you have no idea of who and what's coming through that
That's
intersection.
right. That's absolutely right.
And there have been many occasions when I've had a green light and I'm really pausing
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen too many instances where people come flying
Red
through.
lights. Yeah.
And I just don't want to take that chance of going, when it first turns green
Yeah. It's very smart.
and being in the middle of an intersection
Yeah.
when somebody's coming out going 70 miles an hour.
That's right.
So, I've learned, and of course, I've been a rider for a number of years, but I always feel, just saw this the other day with the racing and the erratic driving that's taking place. It is, for me, so strange
Mm-hmm.
because I'm accustomed to riding all over the city and not running into any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did discover, I was in Los Angeles this weekend, that it is equally as terrible in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Not to mention traffic, because traffic
Right.
is crazy in LA.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know that.
Yeah. It is.
But I saw some of the same things. And I guess what caught my attention is the police response to it. And there was little to no response to it in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
really caught me by surprise.
Yeah. It's a strange place for law enforcement to be in right now, because back in the day you used to hear about police officers getting involved in chases and they're trying to chase the bad guy. When you're chasing somebody, they're never going to just stop
Oh, no.
all of a sudden.
Oh, no.
The bottom line is that when you're chasing somebody, the end of that chase is going to end up either somebody hurt or somebody potentially dead, because people you chase don't just stop to get the
Oh,
traffic
no.
citation.
Oh, no.
So we have to weigh the risk between the chase and the risk that it has to the community. Is the ticket worth the risk that it has to the communities and innocent bystanders? A person driving, speeding beyond the speed limit, and a 62-year-old woman trying to go home from church. You see what I'm saying? Is it really worth it to put the community in harm's way? It's very frustrating because now everybody is challenging the police. They want to show that, hey, I don't have to stop for you.
But
And
you know how that ends, though.
Exactly. We know exactly how it ends.
Yeah, we know how that ends.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, probably within the last 4 to 5 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the ending of those. And it's not pretty.
Yeah, it's not pretty at all.
Yeah, just on our corner here at Holmes and Riverdale.
Yeah.
several major accidents that
Yes.
are the result of that speeding.
That's right.
One of those accidents, fortunately, and I'll even say God intervened, where the cars looked as if everybody inside should have been gone, and no one was hurt. And then something that didn't look as bad, and everybody was gone.
Right. That's terrible.
You know, so you know, just to see it has challenged my riding in certain areas. Even as I come to church, there are points at which I say, you know what, I got to go in a different direction. I got to do something different.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the relationship between the police department and Shelby County sheriffs.
So we have a good relationship. You know, Floyd Bonner and I have been colleagues and close, you know, confidants from the very beginning.
That's good.
Of my tenure here.
That is great.
I've always felt it was important for me to know the heads of not just, you know, the county entities and law enforcement, even my federal partners here. So we have had opportunities to break bread, to sit down and talk how we can collaborate.
Certainly.
And even when there is some type of crisis, we all just automatically sort of, you know, unify to try to figure out how do we deal with this, whether it was a nationally publicized kidnapping.
Oh, wow.
A nationally publicized active shooter, you know, the death of young Dolph. You know, the Memphis Police Department doesn't handle these types of crises. And most of the time we're the lead agency, but we never handle these crises alone. And the Shelby County Sheriff's Department and other federal partners come to our aid. They come to our command centers.
Certainly.
They provide resources, investigative, you know, resources for us too, so that we can mitigate whatever kind of issue that we're dealing with very quickly. We all wish we had more resources. You know, the sheriff's department is inundated in the jails, and you know, and in the county as well.
Oh my.
But I think from a law enforcement standpoint, our officers appreciate the support that we get from the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
And it is a team effort.
It is. It absolutely is
a major
team effort. Yep.
And both departments are definitely needed.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
we welcome it. I asked that question simply because I know it has to be a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful for the both. I've had experiences with Bonner, and he is a wonderful gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's running, but we've had great conversations, and we've watched the movement in our community, and it's been incredible. We've had some things happen on campus, and he has responded quickly and solved the problem. So we know it's a team effort. How can we, because you're being received by an audience that's larger than Memphis, but particularly in Memphis. Audience will be hearing you. What can we say? What can you say to kind of change the image of the police department in the city of Memphis?
So I think a lot of the work that has been done over the years with officers and their individual personal contributions in the community has helped sustain us.
Okay.
I can't take credit for relationships that existed with these officers prior to my coming. And it's obvious to me in the interactions that I have with them and the volunteerism that they have in the community, the work that they do in their own churches. That's one thing I can say about our officers. A lot of them are churched right here in the city of Memphis. So I have a saying of, you don't want to try to establish a relationship on the day of a crisis.
No.
You know, those relationships need to already be built. And I have had an opportunity to really build relationships with the clergy here in the community, because I think it's important for us to keep our pulse on, you know, all of our communities, no matter whether it's a Hispanic neighborhood, a Jewish neighborhood, Black neighborhood, white, you name it. It's important for us to keep our fingers on the pulse of the community. Certainly. And sometimes the best way to do that is through our church institutions.
Certainly.
And anytime we want messaging just like this, you know, how do we have candid conversations, especially from entities that want the same thing? They want good, wholesome, you know, communities. So we're constantly trying to, show the community who we are as people and as human beings. And I say it to the
think
coaching.
that's it.
Yeah,
think that's
human
it.
beings. And I said that to the Kojic congregation, and I've said this before. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No.
We know that, in every environment, there's going to be, some individuals that go off the rails and do things that are not congruent with, the philosophy of the department. But by far, we have some really great and wonderful officers who, really have had their own emotions about what we've had to experience. In the death of Tyree Nichols,
Certainly.
in the death of Officer Red, who was coming to the aid.
Yes.
So there's a mix of emotions going on here, but you still have officers that have integrity to put this uniform on and say, despite the challenges, there's work to be done. In a city like Memphis, we need our police department.
And I think that's the part. I think we need to hear your humanity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what changes it for me. As I said, we have several police officers in our church, and they're totally involved in ministry, totally involved in worship.
Yep.
There's this interaction with people throughout the congregation.
Yeah.
And so them, they know everyone. We're breaking bread together. We're praying for one another because they're active in ministry. You see both sides.
Yeah.
And so it helps out a great deal. What's good for us, even in the midst of Tyree Nichols, is to hear them talk about how much they need community support. And here's the part that they talked about, and I never considered it. I didn't catch just how much they were grieving that situation. It never dawned on me.
Oh, yeah.
That they would have to grieve that situation.
Oh, absolutely. And really not just grieve it, but feel a sense of responsibility.
And in the midst of that, though, Chief, to grieve it, to feel a sense of responsibility, but to talk about, these are my raw feelings about it.
Yes.
And I need the opportunity to express how I'm feeling in a very positive and even in a very negative way, so that you all understand we do this professionally. But we're very much human beings.
We're very much human beings. And, you had to be inhumane not to feel, what the community was feeling, and to even have, the same level of vitriol about, witnessing that. But at the same time, it's important for us to realize, and I said it earlier, that under these uniforms are human beings that have children. That hope that when their kids are commuting, whether they're here in Memphis or they're at some college campus someplace outside of this city, that a police officer will treat their child as a human being.
Certainly.
And that is something that we all would hope, that as we all have family members, and this is a heavy responsibility, and that we should always give respect in order to get respect. One of your questions had something to do with that, about how do we have encounters, with the police, and what do we tell the community members when they get stopped by a police officer? Well, I'm going to step back and say, what do you tell police officers about how they should treat community members? We're the start of it.
Certainly.
We're the start of it. And sometimes we can set the tone and tenor for how that interaction can go.
The unfortunate thing about that, though, is, that sometimes when people are stopped, there's just a buildup in their thoughts and minds about the police department, that you're already on the defense.
Yes. Yeah.
Come on. People know that they're speeding. People know that they're breaking the law. If that interaction goes differently, we're good.
Right.
We get a ticket, we do whatever we got to do, and we roll on.
Right.
And I think, as I go back to the Tyree Nichols piece, I think that's what caused us to really pray for officers and to ramp that thing up, because, I heard officers say, we don't want to be received in the community as those who are not going to protect them.
Right.
And that brought me to a very emotional place, because I know the people who are members of this church who are in the police department.
Right.
And they're some of the greatest people in the world.
Well, and we see so many examples of it every day. We see so many examples of police officers in this community putting their lives on the line.
Every single day.
But that conversation and that narrative will never be amplified. And I understand how community members feel when an officer crosses the line. But when that happens, we're going to take ownership of it. We're going to hold our officers
Certainly.
accountable. We don't ever want to lose a community member's lives. But at the same time, I want people to know also that out of all of the officers that serve this community, I wholeheartedly, intimately know their hearts. I know the volunteerism that they have. I've got officers that actually volunteer more time sometimes than they actually work with football teams. I mean, huge football teams of young people, and it's needed.
Yeah.
And I said, if we have 20 people in the community that'll take 150 kids like Officer Antoine Smith has, that would help us with some of the problems that we have, with our young boys. And this is one officer and his volunteers that has 150 boys that they put their arms around.
Amazing.
And they buy uniforms for them, take them on trips, mentor them, coach them.
Amazing. Put
them in suits when it's time for them to get their awards. And we started Girl Scout troops.
I love it.
Because our girls need it.
I love it.
So, a lot of the work that we do is out of care and love for community and an effort for people to see the human side of us, too.
And that's one of the questions, too. What programs can we enact? What can we do to foster a different relationship? That speaks of it right there.
So I'm a member of a lot of national organizations, and there's one program that has been really successful, and I think it's important in building relationships. One of them is called the Law in Your Community. And the Law in Your Community is a course that really helps young people, and it also helps police officers about how to have safe encounters with the police.
Oh, wow.
It came on the heels of, I don't think it was Trayvon Martin. It was one of those other traumatic incidents about how to have safe encounters with the police. And people think that they have to fashion themselves a certain kind of way in order to have a safe encounter. But I say as well that police officers have to fashion themselves a certain kind of way too. Our attitude, our approach, our, communication
certainly
can help to guide, that encounter. So when we have this course, and sometimes we have it in church environments where we bring young people in and we actually act out. Okay, you the driver and you got people in your car and you get stopped. What do you say to the officer? And then we give a young person a chance to be the officer.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And so all of these kids are in the car, but you the officer, and they're not doing what you tell them to do.
Oh, wow.
How are you feeling right now? Do you think there's a gun in the car?
Oh,
Do you
wow.
think, so those are the kinds of opportunities for education, I think, for our community.
And you just said a mouthful when you said, is there a gun in the car?
Yeah. Yeah. Who's and I think it was a barbershop conversation I had when I first got here.
My.
We were talking about, this generation of young people and this generation of new police officers, they're the same people. Everybody's antsy. Everybody's scared of the other person.
But Chief, our governments are handing people guns.
They're handing people guns.
And that makes your job harder.
It does. And, when laws are passed, laws aren't passed with impoverished minority communities in mind.
Yes, no, they're not.
It's not. And we're the ones, unfortunately, that get the negative result from what may have been a well-intended law.
I don't know how that's well-intended.
I know. I'm just being nice, I guess. But
you're
right. But you're right. I can't see why we need so many guns and so many automatic weapons. We're not at
on
war.
The street.
Yeah. And it's just devastating to minority communities because when we pass permitless carry, and I'm just going to say it, we have seen more guns now on people who would typically, back in the day, we used to duke it out in the front yard.
That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen anymore. Now everybody has a gun and we're going to shoot it out in the front yard.
But we're made to believe we got to have a gun.
Yeah.
And we're made to believe that the best way to protect ourselves is to have that gun and whatever encounter you have, come up shooting.
Right. Right.
Not the answer.
Not the answer.
The comical thing is, Chief, we've had to be careful with church we've got a great security team, and we've had to make sure we got the message out to the church community. I don't need everybody in here armed.
No.
Crossfire is not good fire.
Not at all.
And you got folks in here who can't see.
It'd be disastrous.
That's
right.
You can't see.
That's
what
funny,
do you need a gun for?
You're right. If you can't see, you don't need a gun.
No, ma'am. You don't.
Right. And if you don't know what you're doing with it, you really don't need one.
And the amazing thing is most people don't know what they're doing with
They don't know what they're doing with it, because when it's time to use it, they're panicking. And they mess around and get the gun taken away from them in the first place. They get shot with their own gun.
But you're in the middle of a crowd trying to figure out who's shooting, and you're shooting.
That's right.
And you don't know where fire's coming from.
That's right. You don't know where it's coming from.
So, government has given people guns who should not have them.
Yeah.
And when you take that into consideration, I mean, it's wild, wild west, man. It is. I was at a restaurant not too long ago, and got my wife on at the door. Happened by another car. And this young man has at least 3 weapons just sitting on the seat. And I'm saying, what
are
is
you
that?
doing?
And very proud of the fact.
It's a false sense of power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a false sense of power.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not saying just in minority communities. It's a false sense of power with other people and everybody who has an infatuation over a gun.
Oh, wow.
It's a false. It's not a hobby. It's a false sense of power.
Amazing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, just the bravado sometimes and holding weapons and sticking them outside the window. It's like I'm a bad person.
What does that mean? What does that bring you?
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't get it, and I don't know if gun laws are going to change anytime soon. I understand the protests we just experienced in the Capitol.
Yes,
I thought it was great that somebody took upon the responsibility to say, you know what, this isn't right, and I have a right to say what I feel about it.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not optimistic when it comes to whether this is going to change or not in terms of the gun laws. But I do know it makes your job harder.
Yeah, it does.
It makes me as a citizen more watchful because I walked into a Kroger market and brothers got on a gun belt as if this is Wild West with 2 on the side in the meat department.
Yep.
And I couldn't resist. I just asked the cat, I said, listen, man, let me ask you something. And he, you need me to hand you? No. I don't want you to hand me anything. Tell me, why are you in here with a gun belt on and 2 on the side? What is that? I got to protect myself. I get that. So you're wearing 2 because you think what is going to happen?
You're going to run out with 1.
Oh, man. And so it's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous situation. Let me say it that way. And I feel for police officers who come into an environment and you don't know what you're dealing with. You said you're walking up to a car and you got to stop somebody. You're trying to give them, a conversation, possibly a ticket, and you don't know what's in the car. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah. You don't know what's in the car. Well, and I think in that conversation that I had at the barbershop, it's like the driver don't know who he's going to get when the officer's coming to him, and the officer don't know what he's going to get. We don't know what person's sitting behind the wheel, and the driver doesn't know what kind of officer he's going to get. We're hoping that every officer is going to be someone polite and it's not, overreacting. And we're hoping that every driver is going to be someone that we can manage without, it being a physical encounter or even worse.
Well, it's just like the cat I told you, he stopped me. And people who heard me said it is rare that he told you what he'd gone through that day and apologized for what he dealt with. I prayed with him because what he'd gone through was heavy.
Yeah.
So me speeding, him pulling me over was really not about me if we want to know the truth about it. I mean, he's doing his job.
Right.
But the cool thing is to have the conversation with him to say, somebody's praying for you, man. I appreciate that.
Well, see, that makes a difference because we don't know what the driver's been going through.
That's true.
We don't know where he came from, what he's going through, or where he's headed. Officers are just coming off of a scene where children were killed in a car accident, or someone was burned to death. It's hard. And in seconds, you're making, in a matter of minutes and seconds, you're making a transition to the next call, and you're trying to, get yourself back together because now you've got a situation that is not as amped up.
No.
And you're trying to come down. and you're dealing with a different kind of situation. So you're wearing a lot of hats.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a lot of emotions that have to be balanced.
Talk to us about, you're in this culture now, you're in this city now. How have you transitioned into Memphis culture?
Well, I didn't think Memphis was going to be that difficult to transition into, to tell you the truth, because I came from the city of Atlanta,
Okay.
and I always considered Memphis as, I came from the home of the civil rights movement, a lot of history, rich history here in the city of Memphis, and so on. It's just that I think it's a different culture in the sense that there is a sense of pride about being a Memphian.
Certainly.
And if you didn't go to high school in Memphis,
I did not.
You're in trouble.
Yeah,
you found that out, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're an outsider.
You're an outsider.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah. It's a very closed, kind of a community when it comes to acceptance. But I think after a while, you have to continue to do the work and show people your heart.
Yeah.
And your
And
your
time.
and your authenticity, and they know that you mean well.
Yeah.
I certainly try to show that to the police officers and my police family, to let them know that I'm only here to take us to a better place if I can do that while I'm here. I believe in good, but I'm constantly talking about how do we go from good to great.
Certainly.
One of my favorite books, and really just trying to help them to see what their potential can be as a police department and as a pride of the city. We still have an opportunity, even on the heels of adversity. Martin Luther King died here.
Certainly.
And even on the heels of adversity, we rise and we learn and we do better. And I think that's where we have to continue to, look at situations. Of course, we want less adverse kinds of situations.
Certainly.
But we have to take something from those situations in order to grow.
Amazing. I've got a church full of officers, and I was talking to one of our members. It appears that we have some new officers. What do you want to tell them to help them kind of move into the culture of the city and transition into this now new position as a police officer? What do they need to know?
First, they need to know they need to stay in church.
Yes, ma'am.
They need to stay in church.
We're going to help them stay in church.
They need to stay prayed up, and really, even though community is important, they need to put their families first, and think in terms of ensuring that support network is there for them, because they're going to face all kinds of various situations. They're going to face times when the community love them, and then they're going to face situations where they may be at odds for whatever reason.
Certainly.
But we have a responsibility to rise above and continue to serve no matter what.
Yes.
Even on the heels of a Tyree Nichols, we have to serve this city no matter what. We have to show people who we are. We need to show them, like I said before, the human side.
Certainly.
And be the first to step forward. Don't wait for the community to come to us. We need to go to the community, because people tell you all the time, I pay your salary. You absolutely do.
Yeah, but that's not a cool way of looking at it.
No, it's not.
No.
But our community is our customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we then, because you're saying some excellent things, how do we heal from the Tyree piece?
I think we have to really think about what's important and how much we are interconnected as a community, no matter what. No matter what has happened, we are still interconnected, and we have to be.
Certainly.
Because we need the community, and the community in Memphis absolutely needs its police department. We need public safety.
Most definitely.
Yeah. But it has to be on the terms of trust, and we have to be trusted.
And that's the message that's going around the country.
Mm-hmm.
We need less policing.
Absolutely.
Where did that
What do you
come
say
from?
to that?
Yeah. No.
Well, I'll tell you. I've responded, in the past to that. Turn off the lights at 170
and watch
North
what
Main
happens.
Street for 24 hours.
And watch what happens.
And watch what happens.
We'll
You
go
tell
up in
me we
smoke.
don't need police.
We'll go up in smoke.
All of the people who say we don't, I want to know what your plan is once we're removed. Because there's a greater population that does understand. And I'm telling you, everywhere I go, and I'm in the community on a regular basis, I go out in the community, I eat in the community on purpose because I want people to see that I am a part of the community and my people are a part. And by far, I have more positive responses, not about me, but about our officers and the work that they're doing. And people constantly saying, we're praying for y'all, hang in there. We appreciate our officers. I hear it on a regular.
I am glad about that.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm glad about that because that's a position we need to take.
Yeah.
And you said earlier something that's so powerful that, the media will spin certain things and they always spin out of control. And, that's really not indicative of who you are. Yeah. And what you do and what these officers do on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's why I begin this conversation with what can we do to support you? Because you can't flip this city by yourself.
Not at all. I think just communicating and helping people to, understand that Memphis was Memphis before Chief Davis came.
Oh my.
Things and we had a good year last year as far as reduction of crime. We put a lot of really positive, kinds of initiatives in place. And as we talked about, our various units that were started up, and they did great work because crime was down considerably.
And we wanted to stay down, yes.
And we wanted to stay down. Unfortunately, a few people did something bad, and we had to step back from all of that good work for a minute here, so that we can kind of regroup. But in the process of that, crime is increasing on the uptick. Every action, there's an equal reaction. And so as a result of some of that, getting over this terrible incident, we started to see an uptick that's been difficult to get our arms wrapped around. Homicides, because of gun violence, up. Just guns everywhere. As I was saying, a lot of these are not random incidents. These are people that know each other.
But, it is amazing that in the midst of what happened with Tyree Nichols, the publicity was just on and on and on and on. The criminal element used that.
Yes, it did.
Is that amazing? Used that publicity.
Yep.
That media attention.
Yes, absolutely.
To gain a stronger foothold in our community.
To get a stronger foothold in our community. And, we really need to have more people in the community that are willing to help us identify, some of these most egregious actors.
Yes.
Because it's 20% of the people committing 80% of the crime.
Yes.
It's a small group of people that we see on a regular basis. And what we have to do is, especially violent crime. I'm not talking about misdemeanors. I'm not talking about ruining people's lives for doing something minor. I'm talking about people who over and over again have demonstrated the propensity to be violent.
Amazing.
And those are the individuals that we as a police department want to address, because I'm always thinking about who's the next victim by this person. If he's already victimized 5 people, who's number 6? And what is it going to take to keep him in jail for a minute?
Yeah, no issue. He'll hurt whoever. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I am thankful, and I'll say it again. I am thankful for the work that you do. We appreciate you incredibly.
Thank you.
And I know you hear it, but we'll say it again. We are praying for you.
Thank
I
you.
will say New Life will help in any way that we can.
Awesome.
And you can call on us at any given time, and we'll be there to support you.
Awesome.
We want to have an opportunity to bring people together and have someone come from your department to communicate positively with them.
Sure.
There's some things we want you to be able to say to the children and the youth who are in our church.
Oh, we'd be glad to come back.
Because I want them to have that relationship.
Yeah. I don't ever turn the children down. I'll turn adults down in a heartbeat.
I'm so glad you didn't turn us down. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I would love to come back and even talk to your young people.
I would love for you to.
Yeah.
I think first of all, they'd be shocked that you walked in the room.
Oh my goodness.
They would be shocked that you walked into the room. But I think that walking into the room can change lives.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I heard that years ago. Incredible story, and I still believe it's true. When the right person walks into a room, it can change a person's life forever.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I think
That's
that you
something
walking in a room with children who look just like you, and when you have a message for them, you have the potential to change their lives.
Absolutely.
And so we want to definitely be on the end of that in terms of participation. So I appreciate your willingness to be involved. And even if it's something that you can't do, sending us people that you know have that kind of transformative power to step into a room and gain the attention of our young people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I still feel as if the opportunity to talk to you and, to interact will make all the difference in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And so they'll think about the next officer they see, because guess what? You're the one I had a conversation with. And I leave that conversation thinking they're probably all alike. Well, that may or may not be true, but here's the deal. At least we take the aggression out of the whole issue.
That's right.
And I like that.
That's right. I do too.
I really
do
like
too.
that.
We can make it happen.
Oh, I would love that. See, you made my day already. This has been so cool. And I'm thankful for this opportunity, because I can see it now impacting some people's lives. I'm going to talk to our youth pastor and see if we can set something up. Because, again, even if you don't come, just sending the right people to have the right conversation is going to change their lives.
Well, you give us the date and we will show up.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
This is the Bishop. It has been awesome. I don't even know how to end it without saying, for me, for those who are in the room, it's been empowering. This is great. We've talked to so many people throughout this year. We've had great conversations, comical conversations, so many that are very, very serious. But we needed to get this precious lady in a room and just hear what she has to say. The city of Memphis needs to hear her. Others who are not in Memphis need to hear her, because it's happening across this country. It's not just a Memphis thing. She has this incredible position, but it's all across this country. And her voice and voices like her need to be heard. And I'm telling you, she's going to change some things. So this is Bishop. You know our handle. We're spiritual, not churchy. I am out of here. Enjoy the rest of your week. God bless you.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Pulpit with Bishop Kevin. If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to like and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. To stay connected with Bishop and Beyond the Pulpit podcast, follow at Beyond the Pulpit the podcast on all social media platforms. See you next week.